Thank you. Hi, I'm Wenda Sheard from the League of Women Voters of Athens County. I'm so glad you're all here tonight. Welcome to this Candidates Forum for candidates for Alexander School Board. The candidates here tonight are Stephen Crook, Lucy Yedis, and Blake Regan. We appreciate all of them for making time to participate tonight. Please make sure that you have a voting plan for this November's election. The last day to register to vote or update your information ahead of time is Tuesday, October 10th. Early voting starts the next day, October 11th, at the Board of Elections office on Court Street. If you want to vote by mail, you must submit an official absentee ballot request form. The absentee ballots will be mailed to voters starting on October 11th. Election day is November 7th, and you can verify your polling place by contacting the Board of Elections. When you vote, you'll see an Alexander Local School District issue on your ballot. That issue asks voters to renew an annual income tax of 1% on earned income of individuals residing in the school district for current operating expenses. We are grateful to your school superintendent, Mr. Will Hampton, that he has agreed to share information about the issue and answer questions after the conclusion of our candidate forum tonight. Under Ohio law, school superintendents cannot use their work time or school resources, such as this cafeteria, to advocate for or against their school levies, but they can provide information and clarifications. Please consider staying after our forum to learn more about the renewal school levy from Superintendent Hampton. Now, in addition to candidate events, our league publishes a voter's guide in which candidates provide written answers to questions. Our voter's guide is available now online at vote411.org. The voter guide will also be published in the Athens Messenger on October 14th and in the Athens News on October 18th. The online voter's guide lists all the races and issues that will appear on the ballot in Athens County. The League is dedicated to expanding public awareness about governmental issues and encouraging active participation in government. The League does not support or oppose political parties or candidates. Please visit us on our website, the Athens League of Women Voters.org, to learn more about our league or to become a member. Membership is open to anyone, men, women, all, who is at least 16 years old. If you appreciate our candidates' events and our voters' guides, please consider making a donation on our website to support all our local work. Now, that's the end of the commercial that we do at the beginning of every candidate event. Now it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator. That's not good. Okay. Tonight's moderator, Beth Clodfelder. Thank you, Beth.
Good evening. Oh, that is booming. Can you hear me like this? Okay. Hi. Good. Oh, no, that won't work. Okay. Good evening, and welcome to this candidates forum. Before we get started, I would really like to thank each of you for showing up for this. I think every time that somebody comes to a candidates forum in a small town, taking time out of their busy lives to do that, it makes our democracy in this country just a little stronger, because this is grassroots stuff. So thank you for coming to this event. Tonight's forum is going to include an opening statement from each candidate, questions submitted by the public, some of which were submitted via email in advance, and then you all have paper and pencils near you if you want to submit a question. If you do, you can just hold your hand up with the piece of paper and someone will come and get it. So opening statement, questions from the public, and then a closing statement from each candidate. The candidates are going to have 2 minutes each for their opening statements and for their closing statements, another 2 minutes for those. And then for the answers to the questions from the public, they'll have a minute and a half. The order for speaking will rotate, and I will indicate who speaks first each time. The candidates can see our timekeeper there in the blue shirt in the front row, Brenda, who will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining, 10 seconds remaining, and when the time has expired. If a candidate continues speaking after the time has expired, I will say thank you and move on to the next speaker. Candidates are invited to share their qualifications and experience and to talk about their plans and proposals. Candidates are asked to please focus on topics relevant to the stated question, the question asked, and to avoid any personal attacks or raising any issues that are unrelated to the office being sought. If they go outside these guidelines, I may remind them of the guidelines. And then for the audience members, we do have a few requests of you as well to help this event go well. Please turn off your cell phones if you haven't already. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. Some people ask questions about this, but we save any clapping or cheering or anything else until after the closing statements, when you can clap for all the candidates at one time. Okay, so we just let them talk and share their ideas, and then you can clap at the end if you choose to do so. All the questions are reviewed by a panel from the League of Women Voters. The panel removes any questions that cannot be answered by both candidates, are statements rather than questions, or are duplicates of other questions submitted. And we will use as many questions as time allows, trying to cover a real variety of topics. But we may not have time to use every single one, just so you know. But again, feel free to use those squares of papers beside you if you want to ask a question. So, with no further ado, we're going to begin with the candidates' opening statements, and the first candidate to speak tonight will be Stephen Crook, followed by Lucy, followed by Blake.
Thank you, Beth. As she mentioned, my name is Stephen Crook. I did want to take a brief second to thank the League of Women's Voters for holding this. I think it's a great opportunity for the community to get to see the candidates and understand who they would really like to vote for. I've lived in this community almost my entire life, graduated from Alexander, my kids graduated from Alexander, and I can't think of a better place to really raise a family. I've got a lot of passion for this school system, and I'm proud to be a Spartan. I would like to take that and use my experience and that passion to step up on the board and really do what's best for the children. That's the ultimate goal I think for any board member. And I just want to take, my 15 plus years of experience and, budgeting, financing, reporting, things like that, experience on, nonprofit boards as chairs, and really take everything that I've learned and see if I can help continue to make Alexander the best school that it can be.
Oh, my name is Lucy, and yes, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. Unlike Stephen, I have not lived here my whole life. I moved here in 2001. My kids, though, I have lived in the district as long as I've had kids. My husband and I, we have 3 kids, one in college and 2 in high school. One is down at the other end of the hallway now in a game. I was born in Athens, grew up elsewhere. I would come back in summers and hang out with my father. And I've served on the board now for almost 4 years. It goes without saying that the past 4 years have been difficult. COVID we were here for 3 months and then COVID hit. Technically it hit way in the beginning, but we just didn't know it. I've had to make difficult decisions. Sometimes the decisions were straightforward, although difficult. Sometimes the decisions took a lot of listening to all kinds of sides, and we're a public board, so our listening is in public. I care very deeply for the students and the staff here at Alexander. Sometimes I can be like a dog with a bone about things. It's like, what about this, and I'll keep asking, what about this? And one of the things is I hope for and expect a diversity of opinion for making decisions. It's something I do. I like to argue with people, what about this, what about that? and that helps all of us get to really good decisions. That's it. Thank you.
Is that all right?
Blake, please?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Blake Regan, for those that don't know me. Again, I just want to echo thank you to the League of Women Voters, not only for this forum, but all your forums and all the information you put out there, educating the public to make a wise decision on every issue that's on our ballots. So thank you for that, and thank you for this opportunity to get to know the community, or have the community get to know me well, better as well. So my name is Blake. I'm not from here. I'm from the Cleveland area originally. Moved down here to go to school in 2002. Met my wife and decided that this is where we were going to bring up our kids because there's no place better. My wife works here. I have 3 kids. They're all Spartans. I've been a board member for 3.5 years, board president for 1.5 years. To say I've loved every minute of it would be a lie, but I love working with these kids, working for these kids, and nothing will ever take that away from me. Besides board member, I volunteer for coaching soccer, coaching basketball, volunteering to coach baseball, even though I know nothing about that. But I'm here for those kids, and I think my experience, my background in business, education, allows me to give something back, not only to these kids, but the community, and I'm willing to do that for another 4 years, given the opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates, for those opening statements. And now we will turn to questions from the public, which I've just been handed. Okay, here's maybe a good one to start with. So our first question tonight, which will be to each of the candidates, and I'm sorry, starting with Blake, please, on this one. Where do you think improvements are most needed in the Alexander schools?
Well, I'm a firm believer that everybody can get better. I think we are the best in the county. That's my honest opinion. But where can we get better? My personal opinion would be that I think us, along with every other school, needs to put a focus on not just college ready, but career and society ready. And that's where I really would like our school to focus, is getting students career ready, whether that be including getting to college, but also just working, whether it be in a farm, in a mechanic, as a mechanic, power lining, whatever it might be, but being successful and being a intelligent member of our society.
And now Stephen, please.
I mean, I think that, we've got a wonderful administration here. I think they're doing a great job. As Blake mentioned, there's always room for improvement everywhere you go. I think, giving the freedom to the administration and the teachers and the support, letting them know that we're behind them on all their issues and improving the curriculum. I do know one thing personally to me is kind of along the lines of Blake, but a little different, is I would love to see, not just career readiness, but real world scenarios taught into K through 12, mostly, 9, 10, 11, 12, whether that be, bank accounts, mortgages, job interviews, how to fill out job applications, where you want to go in the future, really getting them ready to step out and be productive members of society. I see far too often kids step out and maybe go to college or don't go to college, and they're a little bit lost and may not understand the true burden that they're taking on becoming adults. And getting them ready for those scenarios would be something that I'd be pretty passionate about.
And Lucy, please.
Trying to come up with something new. I mean, I agree about the career readiness and workforce readiness. One thing I noted, I don't know how much we can prepare for it, but while we have students graduating, going to college and going to trade school or going straight into the job market, each year we only have maybe 1 or 2 students going into the military. 3 of my 4 parents served in the military. I don't know what the school could do about it, but it is a very good way of paying for college and getting skills and learning a lot of life skills. My dad tried to convince me to go into the Marines because he thought then I would have it would give good life skills, but it also has a good VA loan. So, but I think the key thing, another key thing I think, is that it would be good if we could help students identify their passion more and their joy, what they like doing. I know that's kind of hard when we're also focusing on testing and learning, but what do kids like to do? And how can they explore that more, either at Tri-County or at the college or in extracurricular activities? That's it.
Okay, thank you. And Lucy, you will be the first one to answer this next question. What is the school board's role in shaping the curriculum in the schools at each of the different levels?
We give overall approval, but that's primarily a staff job. They take a look at what the students need. They drill down on the tests. They talk to the teachers. They figure out where the students are weak and where they're strong and where we need to do more looking at and provide more education or paraprofessional help. And then they do it. Recently, Mr. Hampton came and said we really needed to bump up our reading. We need to change our reading perspective and bump up our math teaching at the elementary. We didn't vote on it. That's something that pretty much is a staff function based on what the work that the curriculum director does with the principals and the superintendent.
Okay, and Blake, please.
As Luke said, it's ultimately and whatnot, but it's also our job to set that policy and that expectation of what we need to go after, what we want to support and focus on. If a superintendent or curriculum director were to come and say, we want to spend blank amount of money on this curriculum, it's our job to say, yes, we are in support of that, and this is why. So it's really our job to make sure that the spending of no curriculum is free. So is that curriculum fitting the needs of our kids? And in that, are we also being financially responsible to our community? And so that would be the role of the board, in my opinion.
And then Stephen, please.
I mean, I think they both touched on it. You know, the state puts down a curriculum, you know, overall, and it's the responsibility of our staff, you know, the superintendent, curriculum director, to follow that curriculum and then tailor it to, you know, in a few different areas that I think are going to help our students. You know, I think a couple ways that we are involved is really just overall showing our trust and support for the staff. I think that we can, as Blake mentioned, you know, we've got a fiscal responsibility to make sure that it's going to fit in with, you know, within the budget or with, you know, the funds that we currently have, and that we're just putting a focus on the kids' needs and what's going to put them in the best situation going forward. And that's really the ultimate goal.
You just brought up in my mind, and one thing that I think fits it to a T is our ag program every year in the state curriculum, because it's not in the state. Oh, it's not a rebuttal. I just wanted to give the community an example of what we're talking about. Oh, sure.
I think right now there are a couple problems that we could address. The first one is the levy coming up, and ensuring that we can gain the support from our community and build their trust back up to understand how this levy is going to build and help shape our children for the future. So I think we've definitely got to get a jump on that and make sure we're putting out the right information and factual information to give them what they need to make an educated decision. And I think the second one kind of ties in. It's overall building back community support and trust for everything that the staff is doing for their kids. I mean, it's a wonderful school, and we need to be at the top of that list and have the community want to follow us through thick and thin as we continue to grow.
I agree that the levy is one of the big challenges that we're facing. It's a great opportunity to have discussions and dialogue with each other, with neighbors, about what they expect from the school and what they want from the school. And it's really important to get the word out about that. I think a second thing is making it easier for parents to be involved as they can in activities at the school. It could be at the elementary level in the PTO or special events. It could be at the junior high or high school. We have a solid core of people who are volunteering with the band boosters, the sports boosters, FFA, clubs, the PTO. But I do know that sometimes it can be challenging when we have to do something really big and we need a lot of people, and it would be helpful to make it easier for more people to participate.
At the school that we, as a board and the community, decided to support, even though it's not in our state curriculum, because that is our community, tight with our community, and is respective of our community. But as far as the two greatest things facing our district at the current moment, it's really, when it comes down to levy, it's whether or not we want to compete with our communities, our local districts around us. That's what causes us to need a levy, because we want to compete and be the best. We need to keep our teachers and our staff and our students above everybody else. We do not pay the highest in our area, but we need to be able to compete with them, or else we're going to lose what makes our district great. So if we do not want to compete, that's what we have to decide. Do we want to compete with them? If we don't, then we don't need a levy. That's the decision. Do we want to be the best around? And me, I do. And then the other thing that I think that we also need to decide as a district is how much are we going to value our education? Meaning showing up to school, getting kids here, tardiness, absenteeism, how much are we willing to fight that? I think it's very important to get every kid in this community educated. The greatest district, not just in this area, but in the state of Ohio. That's my honest opinion. That's why I live here.
Thank you for that. Now, sort of the flip side, of that question. Can you name 3 positive actions that the Alexander School Board took in the past year that you were either part of or that you observed and thought were good ideas?
Very bad if I said no. I think just recently one of the big things would be the track. This is something that has been ignored for almost a decade, falling apart on us. And we found a way to get it done right. One of the things just recently. The other thing is getting our back into school very quickly. Once with COVID, we tried online, realized it didn't work, and we realized that we need to get our kids in school and get them here as quickly as possible. and we didn't delay like some other schools around our area and state did. So that was another thing. And then third thing, I would say our new superintendent, Mr. Hampton, has done a wonderful job transitioning into our district and helping us in our communication with our district. And so those would be the three things that I'd say that the board has done over my tenure there that I'm really proud of. So thank you.
I think on the, I definitely agree that the track and the field is definitely something that need to be done for this community. It needed to be, done for all the young student athletes who are out there, for the fans who are coming to support them. So I definitely think that's one. A second one that I recall recently was, one of the past board meetings, we had several students in who had achieved academic excellence in some testing and scores. And I think that's something that is extremely important, that, I'm a huge sports fan and I want to continue to see that succeed. But I love being able to show the positive areas of other extracurricular activities or academic achievements with our students as well, and highlighting that for those who may not be involved in athletics. And then thirdly, I think, they've worked on trying to increase communication. Like you said, we can all get better, and I think we need to continue to increase that communication with, with the community, with the staff, on where we are and what we're thinking, and ultimately, hopefully, be stewards of what you guys are looking for.
Well, so these are three things that I think are pretty cool this past year. One is actually from a little bit before, but I'm going to scoot it in. I think the first one, it's really cool, I was there while we were doing it, was the fact that we had teams get together and put down sod on the field. I don't know how many people know about that. I know we didn't have press, and that's fine, but it was just we knew the weather was coming. Mr. Hampton put a call out to the coaches, and students showed up. 40 students on average, mostly the football team, some soccer team, some volleyball team, some elementary kids, and quite a few coaches. It was amazing. And they got the sod down in one full day and one half days, big enough so that they were able to have some games here on their home field, and that was a pretty amazing thing. I didn't have much to do. I had nothing to do with this, but we had the welcome back night, which was great with all the teams. I know the band was invited. They initially were going to be there, but then the rain came, and they had another commitment, so they couldn't make it. But that was a whole lot of fun. Tons of people there. And the last thing was from 2 years ago, streamlining of forms when people register their kids. We no longer, with 3 kids, before you had to do 3 forms, all the same information. Now it's not that way at all. So that's something very small. Again, I had nothing to do with that other than, but I'm very happy about that.
Thank you. Next question goes to you first, Lucy. And it's a harder one, but a really good question. How would you recommend that the board adjust the budget of the school district if the levy does not pass?
The biggest one, I would really rely on staff suggestions. 2, we've done this before when we were trying to cut costs, so I would suggest we do things that we look at things that we did before, pay to play, things like that. I know we looked at some point for not busing kids to school who lived within 2 miles, because we don't technically have to do that. I don't know if I would want to go to that point. The biggest expense at Alexander is staff. The levy gives us 10% of our budget, so we would have to cut some programs and some staff eventually. I would really rely on staff, though, to give recommendations about where they thought we could carve out some a bit at a time and try to stave off any effect on classrooms.
Thank you. And Blake, you're next.
Yeah. So first and foremost, this first go at the renewal of the levy is a year and a half premature. Of its, we get 3 tries at this. I'm hoping it's only 1. So if this one doesn't fail, what we really need to do is just start planning. But regardless, we'll have some data to go off of. But if it comes down to it, it's pretty simple math. We have a $20 million budget and a $2 million deficit that makes up from our levy. So it's quite simple that when roughly 80 to 90% of our budget is made out of human capital, that's where the majority of the cuts are going to come. You can't cut the electric bill that's $30,000 a month. Can't turn off the lights. We're going to have to take that from human capital, and I'll leave it to the admin to say where can we make the most cuts that hurt the kids the least. That's the end of the line, is we need to get those kids their education. Where can we get it?
This is something that I think that, we definitely need to be prepared for, as we come into November. If it doesn't pass or it's close, we need to be prepared either way. We need to start putting together a, what if scenario, how are we going to do this, and work with the administration on how to do that. And I think as we move forward, providing more information about the levy on these next 2 tries, if the first one doesn't pass, as Blake mentioned, show them some more accurate information, where the money's going, showing that, we're trying to figure out ways to become self-sustaining and may not need this as a forever levy, as I've heard it called. But, ultimately, like they mentioned, it's going to be up to the administration to come to us and make suggestions. And if we have to run, lean and mean for a little while until we can figure out a way to make that back up, we will. And if that's head count, then that's what it's going to have to be. But, hopefully we don't come to that scenario and we don't have to see it. So I encourage everybody to stick around after this to see the information that Mr. Hampton is going to share, and hopefully this is not an issue.
To turn the button on, sorry. I said one more levy question. There were 5 submitted, so clearly it's something that's on people's minds. Have you personally taken any steps to ensure that the levy renewal passes? And if so, what are they?
So personally, I have been a pretty big advocate for the levy, trying to explain to people the need that the community has, trying to hopefully clear up as much false information that's being spread around as we can, to show them where the money is actually going, that it's going towards the children and the staff to help the teaching. It's not going to build the entire arc and everything that we're hearing. So, clearing up misinformation is a big step. Passing around, I think there is a survey going on out there. I would love to see, us as a board, or, whoever the board is in the administration, to keep holding community events, passing out fact lists, and really help clear up information to give those voters the most educated information they can have. This
order is just getting me every time. I don't know. All right, maybe I'm all right. So So personally, what I've done in terms of making sure that the renewal has the best support it can is, for instance, every board meeting that we've hired somebody, I've asked the superintendent, is this a new position? Just making it clear to the public that this is not a new position or it's just a replacement position, so the public was aware of where the funds from that levy were being used and that we needed it to operate as we currently were and currently are. In terms of, again, that's me as a board member, but as a personally, excuse me for that, personally, anybody that has had a question, friend or foe, I don't even know how to say, I get a lot of hate from people, but I'm still willing to talk to them. Give them my rationale, give them my reasons, give them the facts, because there is a lot of misinformation out there. So anybody that wants to talk, trust me, I'm willing, and I do talk. I don't know if that's from coming from one of 6 kids where every day there was a fight, but we still loved each other. I don't know what it is, but I do talk, and that's one thing that I've done personally. So that.
Well, with the past levies, I was involved one way or another with just about every single one. With this one, I spoke with someone recently and have offered some funds to be used as they see fit, either now or in the future, to help get the word out about the levy.
All right, thank you. For this next question, Blake will be speaking first, please. Do you think it is important for the board to set meaningful, attainable goals for the superintendent?
I think it is important for the board to give the district meaningful, obtainable goals. The relationship between the board and the superintendent or treasurer as well, I think it's very important that it is open and honest, where that on a daily basis you're having that current evaluation of each other. And that is something that I think Mr. Hampton would agree to, and Kim Napper as well would. Sorry, Kim, I saw you roll your eyes, but would agree that it's something that setting those goals is something that if that helps them achieve, it is. But it's more important to have the relationship where you can be open and honest discussions and evaluation of each other. I've made them mad, and they are very eager to let me know I've done them wrong, but right back at them. And so I think that relationship is more important than any piece of paper will ever do.
And Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's important that, that the board collectively comes up with, reasonable and achievable goals for, the superintendent and the district. I think those goals need to obviously, meet state guidelines and do what's best for our students. And then ultimately, we just need to give support, guidance, make sure that we are there to have an open dialogue with Mr. Hampton, anybody else, and really keep that line of communication open. And I think that's going to help them achieve their goals and let them know that we're here to work with them and we all have the same goal in general.
Yes, obviously. And the only thing I would add is it needs to be mutually agreed upon goals.
Okay. The writer of this one put the question in an interesting way. So basically, and this one will be answered first by Lucy, please, and then Blake, and then Stephen. How do you think the Alexander schools are doing, and could you put your answer in the form of a letter grade, please?
It probably depends upon what you're looking at. Overall, I'd say B+. If one looks at participation in extracurricular activities, generally A-. If you're looking at how are we meeting our kids who have special needs in the classroom, I would say A. We have a group of parents who are trying to get together fundraising to make our playground, our elementary playground, more inclusive. So right now, that grade would be lower because the kids who need quiet places, or the kids who might be in wheelchairs, or they have a hard time playing in the playground, so their needs are not being met. So that would be a lower grade. That would be probably a D or a C in terms of kids who have special needs playing with their friends during the playground, during recess. Overall, I would probably say B+. Yeah.
Besides at the college career, my kids are still in the elementary, so I'm going off a different letter grade system. But I'll go off. I'd say we're teetering right at the 92.1%, just above an A-. We're on that brink where we can't let up. We need to keep doing what we're doing, because whatever it is, it's working. We have our enrollment going up every year. We have kids transferring from outside of our school in. We're plus on that. Whatever it is we're doing, it's working. But we can't stop doing it, or else we might start dropping below that A+, or that A that we're hoping to achieve. And so I think everything that we're doing is working. The local area, we're spending about $1,000 less a kid than Athens, and we got the same rating within the school district. We're doing a darn good job. So hats off to all our staff, our admin, our communities, our parents. Just keep it up.
I think overall, if I had to put an actual grade on this, it's probably teetering between that B+, A- area. I think there's always room for improvement, and I think we have identified areas. I've heard the board identify areas in the past. I've heard, the administration identify areas that we need to get better. But, there are a lot of things that we do great. As Blake mentioned, enrollment is up every year. We've got a lot of people wanting to come to this area, and there's a reason for that. I think recently we've put a bigger focus on, the overall health and wellness of the child and the family, as well as their education, which, I think those two are directly tied to each other. Whether there's social issues going on with the children, or family issues, we've done a good job at trying to help them work through that. And I think going above and beyond, and I think that's something that a lot of schools don't do, so I think that kind of is another thing that sets us apart.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question, we'll have Stephen speak first, please, and then Lucy, and then Blake. The member of the public said, in that person's opinion, many people in Alexander are related to each other and work together. How would you manage any potential conflicts of interest? And they left that for you to define.
It's a very good question. I'm glad I get to be the first one to answer this one. I think that's something that you're going to see in any small town. Unfortunately, we're not a huge area, so it's a lot of families here, a lot of relatives, whether they're working in the community or coaching or whatever it is to the school system. I think that we just have to do the best that we can to ensure that we are picking the right people for every position. And we've got to leave that up to the teachers, the administration, the staff, whoever it is that's going to make that decision, and hope that they're going with their heart. And, if they ask our opinions, obviously we'll give it to them, and we're here to help out where we can. But, we just need to understand that we're all trying to do what's best for the children, and there's going to be some crossover here when you're in a small community.
So technically, conflict of interest in the Ohio Code is primarily about financial benefit. So each one of us, we just have to make sure that when we vote, we're not voting for something that directly gives us a financial benefit. However, there's also perceived conflict of interest. And there it's just important to be very clear why we make decisions. And I'm fairly certain that if folks look at me and the decisions that I've made, I generally do not, as all of us have to, you just can't take into account the fact that you care about someone personally. The decisions have to be made impartially. So us on the board have gotten a lot of practice doing that these past several years. And we also have to just make sure we hire good staff who also make good decisions and are impartial, and explain why they make the decisions when they can.
Just want to ask clarification. Do you mean our conflict of, was the question our conflict of interest or conflict of interest within the school?
The exact wording of the question is, many people in Alexander are related to each other and work together. How would you manage any potential conflicts of interest?
Well, within the school itself, that isn't the role of the board. But within my own conflict of interest, I mean, my wife works at the school, and she has for the past 3.5 years that I've been on the board. With anything that has anything to do with her or my kids, I should add that, because that doesn't just have to be a spouse. But I ask for legal advice. That's why we have lawyers. I ask the legal advice, and I get that legal advice. And if there's any perceived conflict of interest, I abstain. And it's that simple. I go to the experts.
Great. The next question, which will be answered first by Blake and then Stephen and then Lucy. I'm going to combine two that the audience has submitted this evening because I think it's a really good question. So kind of a two-parter. First, would you support, or do you support, professional development programs for faculty and administrators in the Alexander School District? And kind of the second part of that is, would you as a board member undergo professional development to learn even more about how to be a good school board member?
The easy answer is yes and yes. One of the things that highlighted Mr. Hampton when he was applying for the position was his love for professional development. Once you're in education, you're not done educating yourself ever. The world is always changing. We always have to be getting better at what we've been doing even for the past 20 years. One of the things that I really found interesting was for me as a board member, I'm trying to get back to it, is Board Member 101. It was a very helpful thing of learning. It was a 2-day, really intensive, everything you need to do from OSBA. And I was hoping to do it again this year, but it ran into one of my kids' basketball tournaments that I was coaching. And so I was on the other side of Columbus doing that. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but I'd still like to make it. And I think it's important not just for me to do it, but all of the board members to do it. Because if we're not staying current, then we're behind times. And how are we going to be expected to compete if we're not current?
Yeah, I mean, I think professional development is imperative to the growth of not only our staff, but our students. If we stop learning, then how are we going to be able to teach in an effective manner and support in an effective manner? You know, I support all kinds of professional development, whether it be for the staff. You know, I would look at finding ways and that, you know, that we can get that are cost effective or that run within the budget and ensure that we're spending the money wisely. But, you know, that's something that we have to focus on, or, you know, the kids aren't going to get the full education that they need. And as far as professional development for the board, I think the same thing goes. You know, if we're not willing to learn, then how can we fully understand the issues and the guidelines that our staff and students are trying to go by? So we have to continue to seek that out and move forward.
Yes and yes. I've, several years ago when I worked for pay, I worked in nonprofit organizations in New York City, and I'm pretty familiar with boards, national boards and international boards, and the kind of expectations that people have of the leadership. I've certainly learned a lot in these past 3.5 years as a school board member, particularly about the rules in Ohio. That's something that all of us on the board could probably use a refresher on. And definitely for staff, and all staff, not just teachers or paraprofessionals. Yeah, that's easy.
Okay. Somebody in the public was very nice to you and asked one of the best questions I've seen in any such forum. So Lucy, this one goes to you first, in terms of how you may enjoy answering this. If you were a real estate agent and were showing a home to a couple expecting their first child who were new to this area, what would you say about Alexander and the school district?
First of all, I would, being a good real estate agent, I would already know a lot about them. I would have already spoken with them about what their hopes are, what they like doing, and things like that. So I would already know what kind of lifestyle they were looking for. And then I would talk about the pertinent things that could be related to my experience, how it's really awesome if you're going to have kids, especially more than one, to have the kids start at one end of the school, and by the end of the year they're at the other end of the school, and the kids go back and forth, and the big kids somehow get out of the way of the little kids when they're walking through to PE to the gym. It's kind of like magic. I would talk about the scores, the test scores at the school. Again, our scores are very comparable to Athens, and we spend $1,000 less per student on in our budget. I would talk about how they could get good land in the country, or they could have nice small town living. I would talk about pretty solid property values, hopefully not too much so that it prices other people out. I would talk about, you'll know your neighbors if you want to. If you don't, you can kind of avoid them for a while. That's what I would, done.
I guess besides the report card and all the other facts that are easily available on Zillow and things like that, I guess I'd give it my own personal story. That my wife was fortunate enough to get a long-term sub here. I was still in college at that time, working on my doctorate, and she got a long-term sub here, 6th grade science, and fell in love with the staff and the kids. And the fact that the community bonded against, for every single person, something would go wrong, people bonded together regardless of their issues. And so when I started to look for a house, we only looked in the Alexander School District. That's the only place we looked. If the house, because at that time, nobody knew what's going on with open enrollment. People were talking about cutting it out and everything. And so we only looked in the Alexander School District because the community, the staff, the kids. And that is why I live in the Alexander School District, and that's why they should too.
I think this one is pretty simple. There's no better school in this area. We've got an amazing community. If we didn't, we wouldn't have so many questions here right now. This community cares about our students, cares about the education that they're receiving. Our staff works hard. I would look at everything that we have to offer through youth programs, extracurricular activities, athletics. I would talk about my life experiences, how I went to school here, what my kids were able to achieve by going through here. And I would just end it with, I'm proud to be a Spartan, and I always will be.
If you all will allow me, this is normally where I would cut off the questions, but I think we got a really important one just a minute ago. So this will go first to Stephen, then Lucy, then Blake. This is the last one before closing statements, but I would like to ask it. So there are a number of students at Alexander facing homelessness, and others who have really big insecurities and difficult lives. What would you as a board member recommend to help homeless students and those facing really big challenges to ensure that they also have the opportunity to graduate and to succeed?
For those that aren't familiar with my past, I've spent 8 years on a nonprofit organization in this area as chairman of the board, who we specifically focused on just those types of things: food insecurities, homelessness, ways to help this community, and understanding the poverty levels and the issues that are facing this community. I've been able to obtain a lot of contacts and learn a lot of support systems in the area. I think that we've done a great job with the special programs. Mrs. Douglas, I believe that's what she took over, and I touched on that earlier when I said the overall health and wellness of the students and the family. Really working with each family and understanding their individual case and how we help or how we can help is something that we have done as a community. We're going to continue to do. I think I could offer up some areas where they could go and seek help. I also worked for Job and Family Services, where I saw that, and there's no shortage of people in this community that want to help.
Lucy?
We have staff who are dedicated to helping kids who are homeless or at risk, who are hungry, or who might need extra clothes, or who might have a variety of needs. So I would just, as a board member, it's our job to make sure things get done. So I would just check in with staff and make sure, have we identified who might need help, what the help is, what their resources are, because often people have a lot of resources that they might not know. And then I would just maintain continual focus on that to ensure that we just don't try once and then forget about it, that we try again, that we try several times to help help students or families who are in need at our school.
So again, I think at our last board meeting, Mr. Hampton threw out a data point that it was the first time I'd ever heard it. Our habitual tardiness and absenteeism had plummeted from 30-something% to like in 13% or 19%. I don't quote me on that. It was some crazy drop where, as a board member, that is the staff and the admin's job to address those things in our district which are of need. And as a board member, our job is to continue supporting those programs that are working to fight those things. And so, as a board member, being sure to recognize those staff members that are working towards those programs and continuing funding those programs, that are helping our students in those situations succeed it would be the role of that board member. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for submitting so many excellent questions. We couldn't even get to all the really good ones. So that just speaks really well of your interest in this school district. Now we will turn to the closing statements. Candidates, again, you will have 2 minutes each for these statements. And Blake, when you're ready, you can begin.
Again, thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you, community members that submitted questions. Thank you for if you didn't submit questions, thank you for listening. Again, my name is Blake Regan. I've been a board member for 3.5 years. You've seen, you can go back, all the videos are there. You can go back and see what I stand for. I listen to every single parent, regardless, and student, community member that has a concern, whether it's against me or for me or whatever else. I stand up for our community. I stand up for our staff. I stand up most of all for our kids. And if given the honor and privilege to do 4 more years, you know what to expect. I will answer your emails. I will answer your phone calls. I will take that phone call while coaching my kid on the sideline like I did yesterday. And that's what you'll get from me. And if that's what you want, vote for me. If not, I'll happily put my phone away. But thank you.
And then Stephen, when you're ready, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to, first of all, I'd like to thank Blake and Lucy for being on the board for the last 4 years and for being willing to run again. It's, Lucy and I talked before this, it's not an easy job, and it's not something you should take lightly, and it's something you do because you care. And that's why, when I was thinking about running, that's what kept running through my mind is I care about this community and I care about these children, and I want to ensure that they have the best education, the best experience they can possibly have, and given the opportunity to be that voice for the community and the children, it would be something that I would have tremendous pride in doing. And if you want to get to know me a little bit more, I haven't been on the board. I encourage you to reach out. I'm happy to talk to anybody. Love to communicate. But I would love to have the opportunity to work on this board and give back to this school.
Well, as Blake said, with me, you know what you're getting. I've already been on the board 3.5 years, so I would appreciate your vote. I want to thank the League of Women Voters. But because I'm me, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm giving you an assignment, and it's based on the importance of a diversity of perspectives and how we all are stronger when we all work together. In your mind, think of a penny. Think of the back of a penny. Think of what's on it. Each one of us can probably identify 2 or 3 things that's on the back of a penny. I'll give you a hint. It's the one without the head, Lincoln's head. Then, sometime tonight or tomorrow, talk to a friend. Talk to your spouse, your partner, talk to your kids. Ask them what they think is on the back of a penny. Chances are, when you work together with someone else, you'll come up with a better, more accurate answer than if you just did it alone. And my point is that when we work together, even if we have differences of perspectives, probably because we have differences of perspectives, it makes everything stronger. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to close this forum by thanking all of these candidates, not only for their participation tonight in this event, but for putting themselves out there to run for public office. It's great. And thank you very much to all of you who attended and everyone who submitted questions in advance. Truly, there were more really good questions than we could ask tonight, and that doesn't always happen, so thank you for that. And just thank you for listening and learning more about the candidates as well. Again, I'd like to mention that we really urge you all to make a voting plan so that you can vote in this election and for the other things on the ballot as well. You can check your voter registration at voteohio.gov to make sure your registration's up to date. And again, early in-person voting begins October 11th, which is the day after voter registration has its deadline. And then the big election day is Tuesday, November 7th. So though this forum has concluded, you're welcome to stay, and Superintendent Hampton is going to talk more about the school levy. So either way, thank you all, and have a good night. Nice job, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Sure, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I appreciate our candidates coming, sharing their thoughts, their opinions, and the reasons for them running for a board seat. It's very easy to point fingers and say things about school. It takes a little more to commit to being a part of it. And I respect that. So this have an issue on the ballot, best that I can to speak neutrally, not actually about what is on the ballot. We have an income tax. It is a one. Is 11%. If you look further into the numbers, budget, 81% of our budget is our staff. So, with that being said, the levy is a significant portion creating funds. Will change how we operate. 11% as a family. significant adjustment for people. Now, can we do that? Of course. Would the program? Of course. If 81% of our budget is people, people are our programs. They are the things that we make available to our students. All of that will have to change. So I wanted you to have the numbers, so you have points. You've also got a breakdown of our total revenue, slightly over $20 million. $2 million of that is our income tax. Give you an opportunity to ask questions. I'll answer every question that I can. Ability. I have Ms. Napper here to bail me out if I get in trouble with numbers. But no, for us, big. Have questions. We're doing the best we can with our spending. Things that we are currently doing really to compare us to other districts in this area. We want to be the best district that we can possibly be. We want the same. Other districts have different headwinds than we do, and so that changes how we operate. We do districts. That's not good or bad. That's reflective of our community. It's reflective of the needs of our students. And so if you look at our achievement on our last achievement exceeded the state average. But also our spending was below the state average. We were about 4% below the state average. And I'm proud of that. We've added some programs. We've changed some programs. This year we added a preschool program. We needed another preschool room. We had the ability to do that in our budget. That is important. That birth to 5 range is such an important stage of development for our kids. When kids come to us from an organized and structured preschool, they thrive. So we needed to open up more seats for that. We have the ability to do that now. I can talk for a little while, but a little input makes this a better. We have not gone in detail with what that would look like. Yes, absolutely. Yes, we would having a plan to those changes would involve several people. To be deeply involved. We would start looking at, for me, we begin making as many changes as possible as far away from a classroom as we can, knowing that ultimately we're going to get to a classroom. And we would adopt a plan to enact and make change, then we could really speak freely about what those changes are. Sir. It expires in 25 or 24. We're in 23. I'm getting ahead of. Correct. Yes. Yes, we have 3 November, next spring. soon as we can. It's state money is the question. Our unrestricted state revenue is about $9.3 million. So your money stays flat. Think of if your money has stayed flat, let's go back to 2018, prior to COVID. If your money has stayed flat since 2018, you're losing money. Sorry? Yes, with the cost of inflation, everything is more increasing inflation almost on an annual basis. You also, the costs of insurance is a big part of our staff expense. Health insurance costs are almost uncontrollable. Well, we added the preschool. Okay, we set some other spending change, and we're able to save a little money to add the preschool. Okay, but we have reduced class size where it's necessary. We had a very large first. Right, we don't pay for play. We have an extensive, enriched extracurricular opportunities for our kids, and that would become much more challenging. Our school fees, we don't have school fees. So we cover the cost. If you're not from, if you have experience in any other districts, students have fees. Students pay fees for school, and that seems strange, but they do. And some of them, depending on the courses and depending upon where they are in the system, your high school kids, they may have $200 or $300 in annual fees for courses. So we're able to cover that cost. So that's helping our community get those extra things for their kids here at school. Right. Keep sizes low to manageable. If you look at the class size, the average right there. So we're not low, not high. We're right where we're supposed to be. There. Maybe I'll do that. Yes, Mr. Regan. Well, and those are some of the things that we can, at the moment, afford. Ah, yes. We're not the thing that I will say is we're not asking for anything additional. People are already paying this. Working people, not retirees. It's not coming out of your Social Security money. None of that. It is only for working individuals. Lucy? Yes. Yes. They're right. We will have paid off our facility at that point. Next December, we'll make the last payment. And so that'll come off of people's taxes. So there you go. Yes. Stephen. We're still paying for breakfast. Mhm. We were able to do some things to really support our families and not nickel and dime them uh, because we have the revenue to do that. Um, if we no longer have that levy, we have to start looking at those other little bits of income. And again, you start nickel and diming people, and it hurts. They feel that. Yes. Right. Our poverty level is lower than the rest of the counties. And if you looked at the fair funding formula was put into play this year, and numerous districts in southeast Ohio literally received millions of dollars. We're getting less than $20,000 over 2 years. So our funding has stayed flat, and that is reflective of our demographics, the fact that we have less poverty in this area. So that's it's not helping us. It's helping the other districts. And granted, I understand that it takes a lot of money to educate a child out of poverty. So yes, Miss Ray. Jordan Hill is kind of our levy committee, and he has shared a QR code with some questions, some very basic questions about the levy and what's coming. And so we've gone through some of that. I think there were, the last time that I looked, 98 responses. So I'm not sure where that's being shared right now, but it's been through different booster groups, and I believe it's been in youth programs. So we're getting that out. Maybe we need to tap into the band to share that. But we have limitations as to what we can do through school. I'm trying to be as factual as I can without being passionate, and for me it's a real challenge, but it's simple. If we don't pass it, we will make adjustments. We will still have a great school. We will be as a good a school as we can possibly be. Okay, I promise you that. It just is more challenging when you don't have the resources. Yeah. Other questions? Well, you have me ask, and there are no bad questions. So we're good? I know. I was hoping for a little salt. Somebody give me a little vinegar tonight and a little grief. But no, I will answer any questions anyone has. You can email me anything. Many of you have my cell phone. You can call me. I'll do everything I can to answer any questions, clear up any misconceptions, because there is misinformation that's been shared. Misinformation's about our school and our achievement. About our spending as well. I know what we're doing, and we're doing good work. We'll continue to do good work with or without the levy, promise you.